What if I told you the strongest emotional reactions men have are choices, their reflexes? Before logic, before words, before control, a pattern activates, and once you see it, you'll never take their reactions personally again. Emotional reactions often surface before conscious thought, and this is not weakness, lack of intelligence, or poor self-control. It is the nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. Long before logic forms a sentence, the brain scans for familiarity, threat, or validation. For many men, this scan happens automatically, shaped by years of expectations about strength, respect, silence, and worth. The body reacts first. The chest tightens, the jaw locks, the tone changes, or the silence appears. Only afterward does the mind try to justify what already happened. From childhood, many men are taught to manage emotions by suppressing them, not by understanding them. Sadness becomes discomfort. Fear becomes irritation. Vulnerability becomes withdrawal. Over time, the brain learns shortcuts. Instead of processing emotions fully, it redirects them into reactions that feel safer and more socially acceptable. These reactions become patterns, and patterns become automatic responses that bypass conscious choice. When a situation mirrors a past emotional experience, the nervous system responds as if the past is happening again. A tone of voice, a pause, a look of disapproval can activate an emotional memory stored in the body. The reaction feels immediate and intense because it is not responding to the present moment alone. It is responding to accumulated experience. This is why some emotional reactions feel disproportionate to the situation. The mind may say, "This is not a big deal," but the body reacts as if it is. Control is often misunderstood as the ability to stop emotions. In reality, control comes after awareness, and awareness comes after reaction. The first response is rarely chosen. It is triggered. Men often feel confused by their own reactions because they believe they should be able to control them. When they cannot, frustration increases, which creates another layer of emotional response. These patterns are reinforced over time through repetition. Each time a reaction occurs without reflection, the neural pathway strengthens. The brain becomes efficient at reacting in the same way again. This efficiency is useful for survival, but limiting for emotional growth. The reaction feels familiar even if it causes conflict, distance, or regret. Familiarity feels safe to the nervous system even when the outcome is damaging. Social conditioning plays a significant role in shaping these reactions. Many men are praised for composure, but not taught emotional literacy. They learn how to appear calm, not how to process internal states. As a result, emotions do not disappear. They wait. They surface under pressure, during intimacy, or in moments that challenge identity or control. When emotional reactions surface before conscious thought, they often manifest as defensiveness, withdrawal, irritation, or sudden silence. These responses are protective mechanisms. The nervous system perceives threat even if the threat is emotional rather than physical. The body responds by creating distance or control. This is not a moral failure. It is a learned response. Understanding this pattern changes how behavior is interpreted. Instead of asking why someone reacted that way, the more accurate question becomes what emotional pattern was activated. What did the situation remind the nervous system of? What meaning did the brain assign before logic intervened? This perspective removes personalization and opens space for clarity. Men who are unaware of these patterns often believe their reactions define them. They may label themselves as emotionally distant, short-tempered, or unexpressive. In reality, these labels describe responses, not identity. The response happened before the self had a chance to choose differently. Without awareness, the pattern continues to repeat itself. The gap between reaction and awareness is where growth begins. That gap may be only seconds long, but it is significant. It is the moment where recognition can replace confusion. Over time, awareness can slow the reaction, not eliminate it, but soften it. The nervous system learns that not every trigger requires the same response. Emotional reactions that surface before conscious thought are not signs of emotional immaturity. They are signs of unexamined conditioning. The body remembers what the mind has not processed until those emotional memories are acknowledged. The reactions will continue to appear automatically. This is why logic alone cannot override emotional patterns. Logic speaks to the mind. while reactions originate in the body. Without addressing the underlying emotional memory, rational explanations feel ineffective. Change requires recognizing the pattern as it arises, without judgment or suppression. When men begin to understand that their first reaction is not the final truth, shame decreases. Curiosity replaces self-criticism. Instead of asking what is wrong with me, the question becomes, what is being activated right now? This shift creates internal space. Emotional mastery does not mean controlling the first reaction. It means taking responsibility for what happens after. It means recognizing that the reaction surfaced before conscious thought, but the response that follows can be chosen. Over time, repeated awareness weakens the automatic pattern. These emotional reactions are not fixed traits. They are learned responses shaped by experience, expectation, and environment. What is learned can be unlearned, but only through awareness, not force. Suppression strengthens the pattern. Understanding dissolves it. The most powerful change happens when men stop identifying with the reaction and start observing it. Observation creates distance. Distance creates choice, creates growth. But the first reaction will still appear because it is rooted in the nervous system's attempt to protect. Recognizing that emotional reactions surface before conscious thought reframes behavior from a character flaw to a nervous system response. This understanding changes relationships, communication, and self-perception. It allows space for empathy without excusing harm and clarity without self-blame. When awareness increases, the reaction loses its authority. It still appears, but it no longer controls the narrative. The mind catches up faster. The body learns that it is safe to pause. Over time, the space between trigger and response widens, and within that space, real emotional intelligence develops. Understanding these uncontrollable emotional patterns shifts perception from personal interpretation to psychological awareness, and this shift changes everything about how reactions are seen, felt, and responded to. When behavior is taken personally, emotion escalates. When behavior is understood psychologically, clarity replaces confusion. The same reaction that once felt like rejection, disrespect, or indifference begins to look like conditioning responding to stimulus. Most emotional conflict exists not because of what happened, but because of the meaning assigned to it. When someone reacts strongly, withdraws suddenly, or becomes defensive, the instinctive response is to internalize it. The mind searches for fault. What did I do wrong? Why am I not enough? Why did this change so fast? Personal interpretation turns someone else's emotional pattern into a reflection of self-worth. Psychological awareness interrupts this process. Instead of asking, why is he acting this way toward me? The question becomes, what emotional pattern has been activated within him? This reframing does not dismiss accountability, but it relocates understanding. Behavior is no longer viewed as a deliberate message, but as an automatic response shaped by past experience. Many men do not consciously choose their emotional reactions. Their nervous systems learned long ago how to respond to pressure, vulnerability, or perceived loss of control. These responses were reinforced through repetition and survival. When those reactions appear, they often surprise even the person experiencing them. Psychological awareness allows space for that reality. When perception shifts away from personalization, emotional distance decreases. Not physical distance, but internal distance from emotional entanglement. This distance creates stability. Instead of reacting to a reaction, there is observation. Instead of escalation, there is pause. This is not emotional detachment. It is emotional grounding. Awareness changes communication. When reactions are understood as patterns rather than intentions, conversations become less charged. The need to defend, explain, or prove diminishes. There's less urgency to correct behavior in the moment and more patience to understand its origin. This patience does not come from tolerance of harm, but from clarity about cause and effect. Psychological awareness also exposes repetition. Patterns become visible only when they are no longer personalized. When the same reaction appears across different situations, different people, and different times, it becomes clear that the reaction is not about the present moment alone. This recognition reduces emotional reactivity because predictability replaces confusion. Men often struggle with articulating internal states because those states were never named or validated. When emotional patterns surface, expression is limited, but reaction is not. Understanding this allows others to stop expecting verbal clarity where emotional literacy was never developed. Expectations shift, and with them, disappointment softens. This shift in perception also protects emotional energy. Personal interpretation drains energy because it demands constant emotional processing. Psychological awareness conserves energy by reducing unnecessary emotional labor. The mind no longer spins stories around someone else's behavior. Attention returns to self-regulation rather than self-questioning. When behavior is no longer taken as a personal statement, boundaries become clearer. Boundaries are not reactions. They are decisions. Awareness allows boundaries to be set without emotional charge. Instead of responding with anger or withdrawal, there's calm clarity about what is acceptable and what is not. Psychological awareness does not mean emotional tolerance without limits. It means responding rather than reacting. It means recognizing that understanding a pattern does not require absorbing its impact. Compassion and self-respect can coexist. This balance becomes possible only when perception shifts away from personalization. Relationships change when emotional patterns are seen clearly. Power struggles dissolve because there is no need to win against a reaction. Silence is no longer interpreted as punishment. Defensiveness is no longer seen as hostility. Emotional awareness replaces emotional guessing. The shift also reduces the urge to fix. When reactions are understood as patterns, there's less compulsion to correct, rescue, or manage someone else's emotions. Responsibility returns to its rightful place. Each person becomes accountable for their own emotional work. Psychological awareness creates emotional safety without control. It allows presence without pressure. The nervous system senses stability when reactions are met with calm rather than counter-reaction. Over time, this stability can soften patterns, but even if it does not, the observer remains grounded. This way of seeing does not excuse harmful behavior. It contextualizes it. Context prevents internalization. Internalization is what causes emotional exhaustion. Awareness prevents emotional collapse by maintaining perspective. When perception shifts, emotional responses become cleaner, less layered, less reactive. Instead of responding to fear with fear or withdrawal with pursuit, there is choice. Choice restores agency. Agency restores emotional balance. Psychological awareness also deepens self-trust. When reactions are no longer personal, intuition becomes clearer. Decisions are made from clarity rather than emotional turbulence. The nervous system relaxes because it is no longer scanning for threat in every reaction. This understanding changes how silence is interpreted. Silence becomes information, not rejection. Distance becomes regulation, not abandonment. Intensity becomes activation, not abandonment. Intensity becomes activation, not intention. Each reaction is seen as a signal rather than a verdict. As awareness grows, emotional maturity stabilizes. There's less urgency to label behavior as good or bad. Curiosity replaces judgment. Patterns are observed rather than absorbed. This observation creates emotional sovereignty. The shift from personal interpretation to psychological awareness is not intellectual, it is embodied. The body responds differently when the mind understands context. The nervous system remains regulated. Emotional resilience increases without force. This awareness does not make relationships effortless, but it makes them navigable. It removes unnecessary suffering. It allows emotional clarity to exist without emotional suppression. When behavior is seen clearly, emotional reactions lose their power to destabilize. The pattern is recognized, the response is chosen, and emotional balance remains intact.